Hey moms and dads, thanks for tuning in. I'm Dr. Garrett with Foundation Chiropractic, where we focus on redeveloping the underdeveloped. And what I mean by that is we really focus on kids with neurodevelopmental delays. Autism, ADHD, anxiety, sensory processing disorder, you name it, those types of issues. And today in particular, I want to introduce you to the four most common things we see in autism and how you can completely change the trajectory of your autistic child's life when you focus on these things. Anytime I've ever assessed a child with autism, they have developmental delays. They have delays with developing their brain and their body. And there's also a disconnect between the two, between the brain and the body. And when I look at a child with developmental delays, like I said, these are the foremost things that I see when I assess them, okay? The first one is primitive reflexes. So primitive reflexes, which we're going to talk about each one of these in more detail, okay? This is going to be a 5-part series. Primitive reflexes build your brain. Okay, the reflexive movements when you're a child, and they should go away by about 6 months of age. What we find is that a lot of primitive reflex in children with neurodevelopmental disorders such as autism still have primitive reflexes present, which means that there's immaturity in the nervous system, therefore we have to address these primitive reflexes. The next thing we see most common is a lack of core stability. Okay, your core really helps develop your cerebellum, which sits right here in the back of your brain, and really basically integrates everything within the brain. So when I say no core stability, basically saying there's not much cerebellum stability. The cerebellum didn't develop as well as it should. The third thing, is they have a weak motor system. Their muscular system is underdeveloped, right? You've probably heard of hypotonia, very low muscle tone. And your muscle tone, your motor system, that really drives the brain. And we know with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, these are all brain issues, right? So if we're going to start improving those, we have to start improving the way the brain functions. And one thing to do that is start building their motor system. And the last thing I often see is a hemisphere imbalance. What I mean by that is each side of your brain is responsible for different tasks. And in an optimally functioning brain, there's balance between the two. So as your left brain may be trying to do something that may be bad, your right brain's able to kind of balance it out and you act appropriately. So oftentimes with autistic kids, there's an imbalance. So one side of the brain's stronger than the other, and those traits on that side of the brain really drive the behavior and really drive the characteristics of that child. So, like I said, we're going to dive into these more in detail, step by step, so stay tuned. But I hope this makes sense. I hope you're excited. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, reach out. Okay, we're here to help in any way that we can. I appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.